I am not magic. No, I cannot take all of my art supplies and train them to leap magically into my hand. That is not a thing. But playing the footage backwards is. I'm Sandy Allnock. I am a watercolorist and I work in a lot of different mediums. But on this channel, where you are watching the very first watercolor tutorial, this channel is going to be all about water media. And this is the first venture into that. And we're going to be doing a wash and ink piece using Rotring pens and Daniel Smith watercolors. The art supplies for this project are listed in the doobly-doo, which is the description below the video. And without further ado, let's get started. I am that artist who goes to extraordinary lengths to gather her reference material. And on the day after Christmas, I went up to Snoqualmie Pass to see if I could find some snow. I was expecting maybe a dusting. I hadn't really paid a whole lot of attention. I knew the ski slopes weren't open yet. But yeah, they had about 2 feet of snow up there. You can see some snowboarders walking in the background on that right corner. But I found this tree and I thought I'd sketch it. And a lot of people would look at that kind of tree in your own neighborhood and think, oh, it's just a tree. It's got all that mess behind it. How do I tell the difference between one end and another? And, you know, we just look at things in our neighborhood like they're nothing, but they're really amazing things to paint. You don't have to go on a massive nature hike. You don't have to go up into the mountains the way I did, unless you need snow. But if you have a tree like this in your neighborhood, it can just be your neighbor's tree. It doesn't have to be something out there on a mountaintop somewhere in order to be beautiful. So I started by mixing 3 colors. The colors in this palette, this is my little mini palette that I take out with me when I'm sketching outside. Obviously, I'm not doing that right now. The top 3 colors and the bottom 3 colors are Daniel Smith's Essential Set. Yellow, red, and blue in cool colors at the top and warm colors at the bottom. And when you mix them together, you know, the yellow, red, and blue, they make neutrals. And in this case, I wanted to make a gray for the snow because, yes, snow has color in it. And I used the warm colors to do that. And you might be thinking, Sandy, why did you paint the snow in gray? Because the snow is white. Well, you're going to see there's more value in snow when you're painting it than you might think. So I've dabbed off some of it with a baby wipe just to lift some of that color because it was probably panicking you, but I'm going to have to add a lot more color to it by the time all is said and done, and you're going to agree with me probably at the end. So I'm making some of the shadows that I see at the bottom. Again, I'm making them a little darker than you might feel comfortable making, but over time with watercolor, you get bolder because you start realizing that watercolor really does dry back. And especially if you're going to add some darks to the painting, you're going to end up with a lot of the lights looking paler and paler and paler by comparison, because everything shows up in comparison to what's around it. So for the texture down here, I'm putting some little footprints and things in there. A lot of this area had been plowed, I guess probably the day before, maybe 2 days before. They might have done it on Christmas Eve rather than Christmas Day. But there was just all kinds of snow piled up on the sides of the roads. And I think the reason that the tree to the right of this one had giant blobs was I think the snowplow overdid itself. But there were all kinds of mush in the snow, lots of different footprints and things from, kids running by and all that sort of thing. So just a mess in the snow that I wanted to indicate with that little bit of blue. And then I wanted to mix a color for the green. And I'm trying different blues and yellows together. I wanted something that would feel a little more yellow-green right now because I was going to add some darks in it in cooler tones as I worked my way through it. So this is going to look a little bit weird at first. But with watercolors, I always put down the lighter washes first, and if I'm going to change a color later, I might put something different underneath of it just so that I have something for it to play off of. Because when you add a darker version of the same color into it, you don't end up getting as interesting color mixes as when you take something that's really warm like this one and add in some cools. I'm just going to get some more interesting things going on in the tree itself. So what I'm doing here is painting the greens around all of those snow blobs that I had already painted, leaving some of the whiter portions at the top and joining the greens that are underneath in at the bottom of the gray bits. So if the shadows were on the left side at the bottom, the highlights would be on the upper right side. But a lot of that you're going to see disappear. It's going to basically look like the snow on the tree is white because all that shading just kind of disappears. I'm not looking to make absolutely every blob exactly as it is. And I think the photo that I was working from on my phone was a slightly different angle of this tree, but it's basically the same. It was more fun to show you the snow coming down, even though it was handheld and moving around a little bit on you. But I'm just working my way around the tree, looking at different branches of snow or different clumps of snow, and what do the clusters of green branches look like in between them. And I wasn't looking to replicate every single one exactly. I just wanted a flavor of the tree. And this one had kind of all of these branches hanging off to one side. So it wasn't an even tree, which makes me even happier when it's not even. The branches also had the flavor, and that's the other thing that I'm trying to capture here is the flavor of the tree. It had a lot of branches that were hanging downward. They point downward. A lot of times we get an idea in our head for what a tree looks like, and we think all the branches swing upward toward the sky, when actually they may not. It's not always going to happen the way it is in our heads, the way that maybe we drew trees as a kid and they always went upward. Well, there's some trees that hang downward, and especially when you've got snow on them, a lot of them hang way down. There were some trees just down the road from this that were literally all of the branches looked like they were brooms. They were sweeping the ground because they had been so heavy with snow that they were pinned to the ground, all the greens, and they looked like broom handles. It's the weirdest thing. I'll post a picture of that over on my Substack because it was just like a funky thing. And I might end up doing a page in my sketchbook with it because it was so weird looking, but no one but me would believe what it looked like because I just happened to be in the right place to catch that really weird sight. So here I'm using the cooler of the green colors. I mixed a lot more blue into it when I added those darks. And I really watered it down quite a bit so that I could create some of these trees in the background. And I opted to make them pale and light colored instead of darker. There's a bunch of different ways you could go with it, but if I had made it darker, it would have made a lot of what's happening in the edges of the tree just kind of disappear into the dark mush. And I decided it's a journaling page. It's not trying to be representational of exactly what's here. So I'm just going to go light with it instead. Just make that editorial decision for myself. And just used a scumbling motion with my brush to just kind of push the color around and make some sort of stripes because all those tall trees back there had a lot of trunks showing. There was more on the left than the right, but I could see some of the tops of the trees, which of course you can't see right here in this little clip of video, but I'll have the reference photo over there to my Substack so you can see that as well. And just adding in some little scrubby bits into this background portion of the sketch. Now, when you start doing something like that, you have to think a little bit. If you're going to add pen and ink, which I knew I was going to do, you're going to add pen and ink, like what will you do with that background? And I was racking my brain for how much detail I do or don't want to add to it because I knew I wanted a whole bunch in the tree itself. So I got out my Rotring pens, and this is a set of 3, and they call it the junior set. And really it's only junior because it costs less money than the college set. But it's basically the tips on them are like micron pens. If you like micron pens, you might like this, but it's refillable. You just put ink in it and I use platinum carbon black ink in them. And then just draw away. There's 3 of them. There's a 0.2, 0.3, and 0.5. And I started with the heavier nib and I went to a smaller one to just start putting in details into the edges of the snow. Because the thing that's going to make this tree feel like it's very delicate is all of these little delicate edges and little places where there are tiny bits of branches in front of some of the snow blobs. There's got to be a better word than snow blobs. If anybody knows the word for snow blobs, please let me know. Then I'm adding just a few of those little bits of greenery coming through the snow, because that's what happens. There's like a couple needles that show up here, a couple needles that show up there. And the more of those small details you get, the more delicate the tree looks. The shapes that I put in the watercolor were very loose and free, so that I didn't get really wedded and carefully tied into exactly what every single branch looks like. I just kind of let myself go to play with the watercolor, and the pen and ink is the portion where I get to finally kind of clear it up a little bit and make these shapes into what I see them as and how detailed I want them to be. And there are some people who will do a lot less in terms of the pen and ink work on a thing like this, and some people will do a lot more, and that's what makes us all different. So, as I work my way down the tree, I'm starting to get more of a sense for this tree being just lacy on the edges, I guess. And it was the place where I started getting curious as to what kind of tree it was, and ended up taking some close-ups of a few of the branches so I could, once my whole self was thawed out, I could go into the iNaturalist app and identify them. Because a lot of times when you use an app to identify a tree like this, it's AI that does all that work, which, I hate AI, but sometimes it's really smart, and then other times it's really dumb. And on a tree like this, all I would get was something in the pine family. And I'm like, I know you have to know what tree this is, but it'll identify it more closely and more accurately from a small branch. So if you struggle with some of those apps that just don't quite give you all the information, then zoom in. So if you're taking a picture like this as a reference for what you're going to be painting, also take a close-up or two of some of the little parts of it, because it'll help in identifying. So this is where I'm adding in more of the shadows. Remember I said you were going to see all that white disappear and I was going to have to put more shadows in? Well, watch how adding these shadows just starts to pull together the dimensionality of it, because it's knocking some of those branches back into the shadows. As the light, such as it was a very cloudy day and it was kind of bouncing around from different directions. But if I want that light to come from the upper right corner, then all the shadows on the lower left and under branches need to be a little bit darker in order to make it feel more real. Now, for finishing off my page, since it is a sketchbook page in one of my many nature journals, I decided to just write a little message around the outside of it. And it simply says, I took a little day trip up to Snoqualmie Pass to see the snow, and I walked through a neighborhood to take pictures. So sometimes I put in a lot of detail about the plant or the subject, and sometimes it's about what I was doing that day. And it was such a memorable trip to go up there and see all the snow and be in the midst of a snowstorm. It felt beautiful and wintry and yummy and all that good stuff. And then I also decided to add snow to this. I'm using a white acrylic pen to do that. It doesn't really show up on that light background, but it showed up nicely on the tree. So it does reflect the fact that I had snow falling down while I was doing this. And then I'm adding my date. So adding that just tells me when it was, and also helps when you're looking back through your artwork someday to see what you painted like, what your sketches were like at a particular time in your artistic journey. Supplies used for this project are all linked in the doobly-doo, which happens to be the description down below. That's just what I call it. And in that doobly-doo, there's also a link to the Art Venture swag shop, which is fairly new. I have a couple designs in there for mugs, t-shirts, that sort of thing. There's some funny ones in there. You'll see my doobly-doo t-shirt soon, because that had to be made, right? This footage makes more sense putting the pens into the cup than watching them zip out of the cup into my hand. But anyway, I also wanted to show you this other thing that I did recently, because with the year of nature journaling ahead of me, because I'm doing a class in which I'm going to be teaching nature journaling all year long, I have all my sketchbooks together, at least my nature journaling sketchbooks, ink for refilling my pens. I've got my paints handy, and I've got the paints that I purchased. The tubes are in that box, so I can refill them anytime. And then, of course, my mug with the brushes and the pencils and the pens and all that stuff. I have it all in one bin so that anytime I sit down to do my weekly page, I can just have all my stuff in one spot. And you might want to do that too if you're in the class. There is a link to class. It's never too late to sign up and join in the adventure of nature journaling. Now, something I'd like you to answer for me is, do you do the wash first or the ink first? Or maybe you've never done wash and ink together, and you can tell me that. But I sometimes do the wash first, and sometimes I do the ink first. And I don't really have a rhyme or reason for why and when. And maybe you have one that will help me to inform my own thoughts about what I do in which order. Leave comments and let me know what your process is. And also hit the like button while you're down there. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I will be back here every Saturday with a fresh tutorial. And I also will be back during the week with shorts and with community posts. So I'll be giving you some sneak peeks about other things that I'm working on. And I ask you to join in on all of that. I am super excited to get this channel launched, and I'm super excited that you're here. Thank you so much. I will see you again next Saturday. In the meantime, get out there and create something every day. Bye-bye. If you'd like to try working from my reference photo, I've posted that over on Substack, as well as some more pictures from my little snowy adventure. Every time I post a video, there's always a post going with it that you can click on and go read more. So I'll see you there.